Hey, my beautiful bitches, it's me, Fiona St. James, and welcome to another episode of Fiona's Coffee Talks. And as always, I like to start off every day with a fresh, hot, black cup of coffee. Hold the cream! I'd love to. And of course, I think of my favorite quote of the century by Oscar Wilde, which says, "Life is too important to be taken seriously, so lighten up, folks." So today's topic is, drumroll please, Retail Time Part 6. Yay! All right, so when we last left off Part 5, had been working for Jean-Paul Gaultier Issey Miyake. I went from part-time to full-time to business manager, and then I booked Oz. So then in between like seasons, I'd get other gigs, but then I was freelancing again for fragrances, maybe a little bit of like makeup, cosmetics here and there. But then this episode is about when I then made my switch into skincare. Now, of course, when you do cosmetics, skincare is part of that. But there are specific companies that are just specifically skincare. So there was a product called Strivectin, which suddenly had come out and it became this huge hit. And it was intended for stretch marks. So people would use it if they had stretch marks or, after pregnancy or for whatever reason you had them. But then the way it was formulated, they then realized that that same product was great for wrinkles, fine lines and wrinkles. Now, you always have to read between the lines because all of these skincare products say they diminish the appearance of. Okay, so does it actually get rid of it or does it just temporarily make it look better? Maybe it's a combination of the both. But then when I started working for them, apart from the fact that they were paying me well, I initially started freelancing for them. And they had a manager, a business manager who ended up leaving, and then I ended up getting the job. So then suddenly I had a staff of like 4 or 5 people. And the beauty of it is when you do skincare and or cosmetics, you get paid more than you do if you are doing fragrances. Even if you're in management with fragrances, you could still make more doing skincare. So because I was with them and I was managing, I was making bank. And I actually loved it. And it was probably the first time in I don't know how long. Like at that point, I think I started with them maybe like around 2007. So I'm fast forwarding here because Miyake Gaultier, I left them, I think like 98. And then for the years to follow, we shot for 5 more seasons, and I at that point was predominantly doing fragrances. So when this opportunity came along, because I started off as a makeup specialist, you deal with skincare as well. So this just seemed like the right segue. And then I realized this is my calling. Like if I'm going to do any kind of retail work in the beauty industry, this was the one that I loved the most because I think I believed in it the most. Because look, fragrances, who cares? Shit, half the shit smells like crap anyway, and there's no way. You spray it, they like it or they don't. Makeup, doing like makeovers, you get half these bitches that look hideous. Make me look young and beautiful, and you like rub a lamp, bitch. I ain't gonna do shit. How? I'm not a magician. So, but at least with skincare, there's a science to it. And so the whole scientific aspect of it and explaining the, the things that are in it and how it does what it does, to me, I felt like doing skincare enabled me to use my brain more. Because let's keep them real. Some of these bitches, like, you don't need to have brains to do fragrances. In the old days, you had to look a certain way. When I first started doing it a zillion years ago, it was aspiring actors and models. But then when word got out that, oh, you can make good money doing this, then honey, suddenly half these bitches didn't even know English and they were working or looked like something the cat drug in. So at least skincare enabled me to use my brain. And I think that was the part that was the most appealing. And also like Strivectin itself, I actually believe in the product. I used it all of the years that I was with them, which I was with them on and off for a couple of years. Because then a couple of times I left, but then I went back. That's the nature of the business. But you can always go back to it. So I actually loved that particular product. It's funny too, because then I mentioned in the last video how like things get saturated, and towards the ending of my stay with them, it was the same thing. You know, it's always this year versus last year. And how come you're not like making what you made a year ago? Why? Because then Strivectin, you could then at that point, they sold out to like Costco. So instead of paying $135 for a tube, you could get two of them for $135. And it's like, so how are we supposed to compete with that? But companies don't want to hear that. They expect you to like pull shit out your ass and like make miracles happen. That's not the way life works. I deal with reality, and the reality is any smart consumer, if you can get two for one, you're gonna go there. You're not gonna pay full retail price. No matter how cute the salesperson is or how educated they are, if you know the product, you don't need the education. You just want the product and you want to save money. Then the other thing that that company did, which kind of worked against them, was they were all about Strivectin. Then they came out with this other big thing called Amatoken, which was like pretty much the same thing, but used this whole other technology. So then they were like the same company. So then they wanted us to push that because it was new. Push that, not Strivectin. But then they would sit here and complain, why are your numbers down with Strivectin? Well, make up your mind, bitch, which you're making us compete within our own company. You're telling us focus on the new product, which if you're going to buy that, if you're going to buy Amatoken, you're not going to buy Strivectin, or vice versa. You're going to use one or the other. Unless you want to waste money, and then they both do the same thing, basically. But so then it became this catch-22 where it's like, well, which do you want? So even in that regard, I thought that was like bad business sense. I think eventually what ended up happening was the company split, or then like, but before that even happened, then they were like, okay, now switch, focus on Strivectin. But then they were complaining, well, why are the other numbers down? Honey, I couldn't win to save my life. So unfortunately, as much as I love doing skincare, I then reached the point where I was like, you know what, bitches, you just zapped the love out of this particular part of the beauty industry that I love. So I ended up leaving them too. And I think at that point, that was like around 2006, 2005. I was with them for maybe 2-3 years, but then it was at that point that I then left and moved to California for a little bit, for about a year before coming back. But I'm jumping the gun, I digress. So we're going to leave it at that. But yes, Strivectin. I was thinking about Strivectin the other day, and I was like, you know, now that I'm an old bitch, I should get some of that, because I did actually believe in the product. And I guess you could still get it, but then I would just go to like Costco. I ain't gonna pay full price for that. So, all right, guys. So if you're looking for a good skincare regimen, just like a basic like treatment moisturizer, Strivectin is the way to go. So, all right, thumbs up. Subscribe if you have not. As always, thank you so much for being here. Don't forget my book, Life and Crimes of Fiona St. James. You can get that at FionaSt.James.com. The Saints is not spelled out. ST, no period afterwards, and it's juicy, and I speak all about my retail world and in my self-published memoirs. All right, guys, thumbs up. Thank you for being here. Subscribe if you have not. Tell all your friends about me. Follow my other social media, which is all at Fiona St. James. All right, thanks so much. Love you.